Good evening, fellow Plexers. This video goes out to Phil to answer a question. He's got a new Unraid server set up for Plex, and he wanted to know what add-on or program to use in Unraid to use as a file manager. And of course, you all know that I'm using a Docker host install of Unraid just for Plex and a few other containers, and all my media is on my Synology NAS. But it doesn't really matter if it's Unraid, if it's a Sino NAS, a QNAP NAS. This is my desktop computer, and I do a lot of work on it and from it. So let me use Synology DSM to represent Unraid. I can open up Unraid also, but I don't have a share set up because all I have is a cache pool with my Docker containers. Because my media is on my Synology NAS, where am I? With these shares, through the file manager that you can add to Unraid, I can copy something from my cache pool onto one of these shares if I really need to, like backing up a Plex container. But because I don't have a share set up, I'll use the Synology NAS as more of a demonstration. So I can open up the file station. I can see everything. I can go to my Plex media folder. I can right click, copy, paste, do all that kind of stuff, right? But what I can't do is I can't right click and open up a folder with a program on my desktop computer. And that's the limitation to my workflow. So this is just Pop! OS. I've run Linux since 2006, first Ubuntu, then for a long time Elementary, still run that on my laptop, last year Pop! OS on my desktop. Very similar to Elementary. So if I go and look at my other locations, here's both Synology NASs. I've already logged in. I can just access it anytime I want. Here's my Plex media. Here's test media for a test Plex server. And that's what we'll interact with today. So if I had media that's already on the NAS that needs to be renamed, I can't use FileBot on my desktop computer through the web browser of Synology DSM. I have to use the web browser of my PC. So I can go into these test movie libraries, and I can look at these movies. Let me do this one instead. So say I didn't like how this was named. Well, I'm not going to use that because it's got a remastered one. All right, so here's a movie and a subtitle. Because I'm on my local computer, I can right-click and open it with other applications, choose FileBot, and it's right there. So now I can use my own custom expressions, or I can hold the Shift key down to get to FileBot's custom expression. Where am I? Organize movies for Plex. And their custom expression creates a media folder, creates a movies library folder, and then adds the proper movie folder with the source ID from TMDB, and then with a simple file name. Of course, I don't want that, so I would use my own expression. So we see how I've named it. Say I wanted to change the source ID to IMDb. I could use one of my two expressions, IMDb structure or IMDb rename only. So that adds the IMDb source ID, and this one creates the structure that's needed. So that will basically rename in place. It will change the folder name to one that includes IMDb as a source, and it'll do the same thing with a file name and add in my media characteristics. And I just have to hit rename. And if I refresh, you see the IMDb in the folder name, and now you see it in the file name. And maybe I'm fickle. I want to change it back. Open FileBot up. Go with my default expression, which is hanging out at the top. Preview it. Rename it. and I'll refresh, and we're back to TMDB. So I can't do any of this with the file manager on the NAS itself. I can do it right on my desktop computer when I'm logged in. Now, something I wish I could do that I can't, let me find a MKV file. I know there's one in the 4K. All right, so I ripped this myself. It's not something I can show because of copyright info. Where the other public domain media, I can show a movie playing without a copyright strike. I wish I could right click and open with MKV Toolnix to make adjustments inside the container file to then save by hitting start multiplexing and have that new copy get saved right in place here. I can't. So anything that needs a fix with MKV Toolnix, I have to copy back to my a local folder anyway to fix and then send back to the NAS. So that's also impossible to do with a file manager on the NAS itself. I need to be fully local for that. But at least FileBot, I can access a remote share and rename right from my desktop. So that's the biggest reason. I never understand why people go through their NAS software to manipulate files. So maybe the first time you need to create a shared folder like your Docker folder, you've got to do that on the NAS itself or any other shared folder. But once that shared folder is created, I can set up for a new Docker container. Where am I? Because now I already have access. I can create a new folder for that new container and then go into Portainer and set up my container. So there's a lot that can be done through the file manager on your local computer. And it just seems like a harder, slower workflow to try to do everything in a web browser on your NAS that you're not directly connected to anyway. Might as well use the computer that's more versatile because you're not directly connected there either. So I hope that makes sense, Phil, and for anybody else watching. I don't think I've ever talked about this subject before, but I love a quick and easy workflow, and this is it for me. So happy plexing and enjoy the rest of your Sunday night.